Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. In today's video we're going to look at getting started with the Kharadron Overlords in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, using the Grundstok Trailblazers Spearhead box set as a starting point for our force. We'll look to add to this additional box set and build a starting 1000 point army that can be used to play Warhammer Age of Sigmar in either match play or work as a great starting force for Path to Glory. The Kharadron Overlords are a race of militaristic mercantile dwarden who dominate the skies of the mortal realms upon giant sky vessels and floating skyport cities, held aloft by a mix of engineering prowess and industrialized magic. Driven by a need for profit as much as honor, they employ wonderful technic-arcane devices powered by a substance called ether gold, lighter than air gold, magic in a raw material form. The Kharadron are mostly secular and prefer to rely on their own science and ingenuity than lean on any power or belief in a god. Their lives they live strictly following bending the code to their every advantage, the code being some sort of formal constitution based firmly in meritocracy and pragmatism. And so before we go into all of the models that are inside the initial box set and where to expand upon, I'm going to look at the battle traits for the Kharadron Overlords, and the first of these is Sky Vessel Cover. We get to subtract 1 from the hit rolls for attacks that target friendly Kharadron Overlords infantry units where they're hollow within 6 inch of friendly Archnaut Ironclads or Archnaut Frigates. These are our 2 bigger airships. Now in this particular video, this is going to be a rule that's apparent as we aren't using either of those kits in this. We do have Flying High though, and this is a once per battle army deployment phase ability. You pick a friendly sky vessel that is in a regiment from which no units have been selected to be deployed yet, then pick a number of units up to its transport capacity. You can check this out on the war scroll of each one of these vehicles that are in its regiment. You set up all these units in reserve in the clouds and they've now been deployed. Now, the flagship is another special rule we get where we get to pick a friendly sky vessel to be the target. The target can be in reserve and we get to add an extra great engine work, essentially giving us 2 of these per game. Now, Descend from the Clouds as well means we get to pick a friendly sky vessel in the clouds to use this ability, and we set up the sky vessel anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inch from enemy units, then set up all other units that were set up in the clouds with that sky vessel within 6 inch and more than 9 inch from all enemy units as well. Essentially this means we can have one of our sky vessel and some of our units deployed off the table at the beginning, giving us some good reactionary ability with the force during the game. Today's video is sponsored by Gap Games, a fantastic miniature wargaming store in Queensland, Australia. They stock a wide variety of miniature wargames from all things Games Workshop to some of my personal favourites, Conquest of the Last Argument of Kings, and all things Modifius wargames as well. Use our affiliate code in the link below to help support both this fantastic store and the channel as well. And so, where to go and look at in the box set first, and we're going to start with the Engine Master with Dirigible Suit. This is essentially one of the Balloon Boy models and the character that can lead that type of model in the force. We have access to a wide variety of different units when we take this model as a hero to lead a regiment, including a sky vessel in its own regiment, and everything in the box we have initially can be put inside this initial regiment. Now, it has some cool things where, first of all, when working alongside its other models with the friendly engine riggers, you can pick this unit and a friendly engine rigger unit and they can actually get crit 2 hits on their melee attacks, which is really nice. And it also has the ability to heal nearby friendly sky vessels and Zontari engine docks. This is a cool little model that's definitely going to work as a sort of base of power for your force, boosting up your engine riggers while also maintaining the health and well-being of your friendly sky vessels. It's got a decent array of power at shooting as well, with the Effie cannon on its model giving it a single 3 damage shot, but also quite a few shooting combat shots from its dirigible suit weapon battery. In combat, the upgraded Athematic Sword is a pretty decent enough weapon for a hero with Ren 2 damage too. Now, like all things with these dirigible suits, these Balloon Boy type models, it does have the fly keyword in there as well, enabling it to ignore vertical movement when moving across the battlefield. Now, speaking of that unit that goes alongside this, the Engine Riggers, there are 2 health 3+ save unit that come in units of 3 or when reinforced in a unit of 6. They do have a wide variety of different weaponry options, where each model of the unit is armed with a rapid fire rivet gun and aethermatic sword as standard, but 1 in 3 models can take an aethermatic volley gun, and 1 in 3 models also can have a Skyrigger heavy weapon, which could be a grapnel launcher, skyhook, or drill launcher, and gun butt as well. The champion, however, cannot replace their weapons. Now, the option here is your aethermatic swords are vastly more powerful in combat. So you do lose these when you start going with some of the heavy weapon options you have available, which definitely do pack out more of a hit at range. So it's really the option of what you want to do. Now, the big thing here, obviously, as you remember, we have that Engine Master in a dirigible suit, and his big ability is going on your combat attacks to give them crit 2 hits. So while you can obviously get the bonus here when you start playing around with the gun butts, you are going to get the most out of them when you start using the aethermatic sword. So it's an option you have to play with. They do have their own ability as well of emergency field repairs, where they can actually heal up some of your Sky Vessels and Zontaran engine decks. We'll talk about them in just a second after this as well. This gives you some extra healing, so with them paired with that Engine Master and dirigible suit, you potentially can heal up to 5 on each of those models. Now, moving on to a unit that is definitely dedicated to shooting, we don't have an option for any sort of combat effectiveness in this unit. It is all about the shots all the time, and that is the Grundstok Thunderers. 2 health, 3+ save again. Dwarden, especially Kharadron Overlords, are fairly good with their saves, and a decent health characteristic of 2 for base infantry is nice as well. You've got the option here of Aether Shot rifles, which will be the main weapons your unit is equipped with, the large majority, but then you can also swap out 2 and 5 models to have fumigators or deck sweepers, which shoot in combat weapons with a higher rate of fire, or you can go for 2 and 5 as well to have Grundstock mortars and Aether cannons, which are a much more damaging weapon with damage to only 2 shots, but rend 1 in there as well. Now, this does mean that you can have up to 4 models in the unit equipped with these different weaponry. The champion cannot replace their weapon as well, so you can't get that +1 attack on any of these sort of upgraded weapon options, only your Aether Shot rifle. You've got your special rule of Specialist Grundstock Ammunition. This is an ability that will allow you to, after they shoot, potentially put some negatives on an enemy unit. You can stop an enemy unit being able to receive ward rolls for the rest of the turn, or to lower their control score to a maximum of a 1. This is the control score, not characteristics. So this means even if the unit has 100 models in it, which is of course absurd, you would only ever get that maximum control of 1. So a character just walks on there with control score of 2 and out controls, you know, that giant blob of grots that you've shot. Now, you do have the ability here as well to take a standard barrel, which is definitely going to help with a little bit of extra control score. So, you know, 1 model that has that standard barrel will be a control score 2 model, so pretty cool little combination there with the Thundercrack Specialist Ammunition. And you've also going to have, you know, just a decent shooting power unit. This is going to be a unit you use on the table to remove enemy threats, but also with this being a unit that can apply these negative modifiers, especially taking away wards, you can shoot these guys first at a really hardy target and then let your other units deal with them when they've lost that ward save. Next up, we have the Grundstok Gunhauler, and this is actually the last model inside the initial box set. The Gunhauler is one of our Sky Vessels. It's the smallest of all the Sky Vessels, and it doesn't benefit from that Sky Vessel cover rule, as we were mentioning. Now, you've got your Sky Ordnance, which is a 3 attack, 3 damage attack, which is really nice. And your transport capacity allows you to transport 1 Kharadron Overlord unit of up to 5 models, so perfect for those aforementioned Grundstok Thunderers. You've also got some other cool abilities that really do help, particularly long line slings, where when you use the transport Skyfarers, you can actually pick targets that are in combat for that ability, which is really important for getting your units that definitely don't want to be in combat, like those Grundstok Thunderers, out of dodge. Your light bomb racks allows you to fly over some enemy units and do some mortal damage, and your Aether Shot Overwatch as well is another way to get some extra mortal wounds out of the unit. This is just going to be a piece you can use to pick up some of your units that you don't want to get trapped in combat, and it doesn't have to be any specific unit. You're not tied to a unit. You can pick up any friendly Skyfarer unit, so you can easily swap these. Obviously, there will be ways in deployment that you can sort of use this on different deployment abilities, which have to be units inside the same regiment, but it is something you can use to just really maneuver about the battlefield and allow what can be a slow army with your base movement, of course, Dwarden with that 4-inch move, on at least troops that are walking. This just gives you that extra speed. And so, where to go next? And the first thing we're going to talk about is faction terrain. This is something that you get for most armies in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and the Kharadron Overlords one is currently free points-wise at the time of recording. The Zontaran Endrin deck is a 10 health and 3+ save terrain feature, which is pretty cool. And it is, this floating sort of repairing Skyfall that puts out all these different little dirigible units that you can use for varying different effects, and we'll talk about those different effects in just a sec. But the main thing here is release the auto engines. This allows you, as I said, to put out those auto engines at the beginning of the game. They all start on the table, and you've also got repair routines where if Sky Vessels near this model actually is able to heal them. Lastly is your Engine Works Outpost, where if your engines are destroyed during the game or removed from your own use of them, you can actually start bringing them back out during the course of the game as it starts producing more and more of them. It's a pretty cool little thing. This is just going to be a terrain piece that definitely helps keep your models alive. Once again, that extra little bit of healing, if this combines with both the engine riggers and the dirigible suit, you've got heal 8 potentially on a unit, which is pretty good. Now, the auto engines come in 3 different varieties, and they consist of a unit of 1. This would be the Nullifier auto engine, Stun Cloud auto engine, and a Grudge Blast auto engine. Now, these all don't count for any sort of battle tactics during the game. They have a control score of dash. They never have a control score at all. And when this unit is destroyed or removed from the battlefield, it doesn't count as being destroyed for the purpose of any other sort of rules, such as battle tactics, but also would be rules potentially that have sort of any abilities that trigger when they destroy models. Now, you get a special rule for each one of these different auto engines you have, which can be used once per turn for your army. The Nullifier auto engine essentially does some damage to all manifestations around it, while your Stun Cloud auto engine allows you to potentially stop enemy units having as good of a control on objectives. And then you also have the Grudge Blast auto engine, which is just some direct damage dealing potential. Now, where to go next? And the first thing we're going to look at is the brand new character that was brought out alongside this battle tome, and that is the Null Chemist, the old diver helm suit model. Now, this is a pretty cool model because it's got some good abilities to really help shore up some defensive deficiencies that we do have with our Kharadron Overlords. The first of these is the protection of the Void. While friendly units are hollow within 12 inch, the Skyfarer units that is will have ward 5+ against any sort of damage and effects of spells, prayers, and even the abilities of manifestations. You also as well get to double the damage characteristic of this unit's attacks that target any of those, this be at both range and in combat, so you can make it a pretty decent model at removing some of these manifestations, and indeed enemy wizards and enemy priests that sort of leave themselves open to it. Now, other than that, it is, a base sort of hero. It's got 8 health, 3+ save, which is slightly sort of better. These Balloon Boy characters generally are that little bit more better at staying alive. A 12-inch move is nice as well, and as you would expect from being one of these Balloon Boy characters, it does have fly as well, enabling it to move over a bunch of terrain. Moving on, we then have the first of the 2 new Von Grimm units. These are sort of the Kharadron Overlords pirate style units, and this is the Von Grimm Harpoon Crew. 2 health each and a 4+ save, so slightly worse save than some of the other units and the sort of average save we expect for Kharadron Overlords. They're armed with Skydrake harpoons and firearms, which are anti-monster weapons, so they get a bonus point of rend when targeting enemy monsters. The big thing here though is their light engine packs, which I think is a really powerful ability. If this unit's in combat, it can move 2d6 but must end that move in combat. This can be used during any combat phase. This allows you to either get into a monster that you want to get into, or if you are in, say, a combat phase of your opponents, you've been charged in sort of a not favourable combat, you can move this unit around to position them better, so say your opponent can't get as many attacks in, or just completely go to a different combat where you're unlikely to be taken out from. This gives the unit a lot of mobility across the table, even potentially snatching objectives off opponent, going and defending ones your opponent thought they might have had the ability to take off you, or even stopping your opponent completing parts of their battle tactics during the game as well. They do have fly as well, as you'd expect. They're an engine pack unit, so they have the ability to ignore vertical terrain as well. And lastly, we have the Von Grimm Salvagers as a new unit, at least, to add to our force. We've got one more thing after this. With the Von Grimm Salvagers, 2 health, 4+ save, 12-inch move, as we'd expect. They have a more combat-orientated role, with their Von Grimm Cutlass being a crit to hit weapon with Ren 1 damage 1 in combat and 3 attacks each, and their privateer pistols also being shoot in combat. They do have the Spotter's Flare Gun, which allows them to pick an objective within 9 inches of the unit, and roll the dice. On a 3+, they get to add 1 to hit rolls when they target something on that same objective, and also any friendly Skyfarers units nearby will get to do the same thing, and they get to add 1 to the Ren characteristic of melee attacks as well, of Von Grimm Salvagers and Harpoon crews that target unit contesting the target objective. So really good way to sort of boost up the power and work nicely alongside your other Von Grimm unit, the Von Grimm Harpoon crew. Like the other unit, they have fly, they're a balloon pack unit, and they just have the ability to sort of buff up the other units and definitely give you your pioneer weapons, at least on the Von Grimm Harpoon crew, go to Ren 2 with that ability, which is really nice. And so lastly, to add to the initial box, we're going to look at a second Grundstok Gunhauler. Now, why would we want to include a second of a model we already have? First of all, this will allow you to keep one in reserve with a flying high ability as a reactionary unit, while also having one on the table to transport the units around and quickly over the table, which is good. And you also have an additional unit to transport your slower unit should a Gunhauler be destroyed. So say the Gunhauler you have on the table gets destroyed early doors from your opponent's shooting or combat or any sort of counter attack they may put in. This just gives you a contingency, and contingency appointments in Age of Sigmar are important to allowing you to complete the game and play in the way you intended to if your pieces do start getting removed. And so our force of Kharadron Overlords today, we're going to use the Pioneers and Scavengers battle formation for it. This gives us Gritty Fortune Hunters, which is a passive ability. This means friendly Von Grimm Harpoon crew and Salvagers have Ward 6+ while they're contesting an objective. This, I think, is a really good sort of doubling down of the ability, especially of those Salvagers who already want to be targeting objectives to get the bonuses for these 2 units being on and targeting enemies that are on particular objectives. And so our first regiment is going to be led by a hero, which is the Engine Master with Dirigible Suit. We're going to make this model our general as well, and we've got the heroic trait of Shrewd Opportunist on the model as well. We've also got the artifact of power, the Void Stone Orb. Now, what Shrewd Opportunist is going to give us, first of all, is the ability to pick up to 2 other friendly Kharadron Overlords, non-hero infantry units to be the target, and they can make a move before the game. This would be pretty good if we are getting those Von Grimm units on the table. Now, we've also got the Void Storm Orb, which is going to just allow us to auto-dispel an enemy spell once per game. This can be really important, especially early doors in those first sort of turns before you get a chance to target some enemy wizards, just to ensure, no massive spells go off that can wreck your plans before you even get a chance to start. Now, moving on to units, pretty simple for this. We've got a Grundstok Gunhauler, a unit of engine riggers, and the Grundstok Thunderers there in the regiment as well. Our second regiment is then led by the Null Chemist, and that's going to have no additional upgrades. But for units, we then have the Grundstok Gunhauler, and we've gone for taking our Great Engine Work, which is a special type of enhancement we get. We get one of these for free. We'll also get a second one to place somewhere that we want as well, thanks to our army's battle traits. But we've gone for Higson Solutions Old Reliable Hull Plates, which means we get a 5-up ward against any effects of shoot abilities. Now for other units, we've also got the Von Grimm Harpoon crew and the Von Grimm Salvagers as well. Our second regiment is then led by the Null Chemist, and that's going to have no additional upgrades. But for units, we then have the Grundstok Gunhauler, and we've gone for taking our Great Engine Work, which is a special type of enhancement we get. We get one of these for free. We'll also get a second one to place somewhere that we want. We hope this video was helpful in getting you started with Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and it was able to give you some ideas and inspiration to start your own force in the game. If you have any other questions at all, please comment down below, and while you're there, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and join our Discord server to check out all our future Warhammer Age of Sigmar content.